What we did was, those hats that they wear with the stingy brim and all, well, as young boys, we used to call them men hats. The grown men would wear those hats whenever they went out. So we, as young men, we would wear those hats in order to appear older and to get into clubs. That's how I got in to see Prez. That's Lester Young. I didn't know anything about him. I just saw his name up there in the picture, and man, we wanted to go. So you see, you learn from the culture, and oh man, that's Lester Young. They call him the Prez because he's like so great on the saxophone. He must be the leader of it. Or it was like Dizzy Gillespie or other leaders of the time who became icons to us. Miles Davis with his muted trumpet, the richness of space in his solos, man. So yeah, we learned through the culture. Hey everybody, welcome to New York Jazz Stories. We're here to play a live radio show at WKCR, which is a station at Columbia University. So we're a bit early, as usual, and there's that guy again with the funny blue hat. You can just follow him in. I love playing at these places, at university stations. They're run by volunteers, and they're always so nice, but you never know if they're going to be there.
When I got to high school, they had this thing called work study. And I remember I couldn't wait to get to be a senior. Because when you're a senior, I saw the seniors go to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, like everybody else. But 12 o'clock, when people took their lunch, I saw these seniors go and get in their cars and leave. And I didn't never see them until the next day. So when I got to high school, I asked a woman, I asked the counselor, I said, well, what is that thing I see when the seniors go out and getting in them cars and leaving? I don't never see them until the next day. And they said, they're doing work study. Well, what is work study? They said, you go to school in the morning, and then you go to work in the afternoon at some job in the town, and you get a grade on it. So when I was a senior, they opened up this recording studio in my hometown of Englewood. Englewood? Anyone? So, Englewood. That's my hometown. It's very famous. Big people live there. Dizzy Gillespie, Sarah Vaughan, George Benson. They lived on what's called the Hill. Now, we lived in Englewood Cliffs, mansions and stuff. So anyway, Town Sound. Town Sound. It's called after Ed Townsend. Ed Townsend. He was went on to be a famous producer in Hollywood. Anyway, so they opened up this studio, and I knew I wanted to go down there. See, I wanted to be a drummer. I had to be about 16 or 17. I said, I want to be a drummer, and the way that I can be a drummer, to continue this, I don't want to get me no job in a pet shop, or as an auto mechanic, because I don't know anything about cars and I don't care anything about pets. What I want to do is play drums. So I'm going down there to Town Sound. I'm going to fill me out an application, and I'm going to get me a job as a sweep-up man. I'm You're going to get the go-get-it man, the go-get the hamburger man, the go-get lunch man, and the switchboard man. Because one day there's going to be a hole up there, and they're going to say, Bugalu, we got a group up here, and we need a drummer. The drummer didn't show. Can you come up? And I would say yes. I knew I would say yes. But in the meantime, I was running the switchboard, I was getting them lunch, I was doing the sweeping up, I was cleaning the toilets. I was doing anything I could just to be in that building.
I listened to the AFN, that was the American Forces Network radio, and the first thing I really was aware about was Louis Armstrong, because that man was singing to me like no one ever had been singing. We were talking about church songs before we turned on the camera, but the essence of what Louis Armstrong was giving me, was handing me there, in giving me his songs, his music, was hope for me. There was hope and glory, and the terrible war. If I tell you my experiences of this war, you wouldn't believe it, but we don't want to go into that now. But this is the way like I would turn onto jazz, because I had been experienced nothing but war in my life. Being 8 years old, I thought the whole world was on war, on fire. So when I heard Louis Armstrong, there was, because I'm a musician, my father was a piano player and roof maker to make his money. But I heard something in there which I had never heard before, and so he turned me on. Louis Armstrong turned me on. I couldn't have gotten a better person to turn me on than Louis, you know. And from that moment on, I felt that there was something which I want to go along to. You know, this is how my life really started, when I was turned on to jazz music.
Yeah.
So that's my early story. We have to be more personal, more to develop our own, but also the teamwork to get, because that was Duke Ellington, that was Charlie Parker, that's all these guys, Monk. I've met Monk, I've met a lot of people in my life, and I learned from them how you just be yourself.
You know, the other cool thing about playing on the radio is you never know who's going to listen, so it's kind of exciting.
Okay, so you also, here's Disney for a second. Yeah, no, I'm not.
So I got the job, and I did all that, and then one day, Bernard Purdy, one of the famous drummers, he used to live in Teaneck, and I lived in Inglewood. Inglewood? No, okay. Bernard couldn't come to the gig, couldn't come to the recording studio. And they said exactly what I thought they would say. They said, Bugalu. Well, Marvin. See, I wasn't named Bugalu then. I hadn't gone to Europe and all that stuff. But they said, Marvin, we heard that you play drums. We gotta make this session. The musicians are here. Can you come and play drums? I threw the broom down, I threw the switchboard down, and I went to Studio A, and I sat at the drums, and I played my first recording day. After that, they never asked me to go back to the broom or nothing. None of that. They never asked me, and I never did none of that no more. I was actually playing drums, and I loved it. I was in school in the morning doing regular stuff that you did in school. At 12 o'clock, I was in the studio, and it was professional. And it was the only wooden studio studio. It was made totally out of wood, which is a really good thing to make a studio out of wood. And everybody from James Brown to Wilson Pickett recorded there. And I was the drummer on a lot of those cuts. Man, my life is like a fairy tale. And that's my story.
Well, folks, that's it. That's another episode. Looks like the show's about to start in a few minutes. So we got a little glimpse there of how people get inspired. Show's about to start. I got to get going.
So I prefer telling a little anecdote that was very important to me. One of the very first concerts with the ICP, for me, I think it was 85 or 84. We had a concert somewhere in Holland, a small village, and we played Reflections. Misha had made an arrangement of Thelonious Monk's Reflections, and he asked me to play a solo, and I played a solo following the chord structure, and afterwards he comes to me and says, listen, you don't have to play it that way. And I didn't understand what he was saying. He said, no, you don't have to play it that way. You can open it up, and that was a very important moment, because I started realizing that it's very important to tell your own story, whatever the situation is. And at that time I thought, well, I play a traditional piece that has a chord structure. Let's play sticking to the chord structure. And when I played an open piece, I would play differently. And that made me aware that it's possible to play freely within a certain structure. And that helped me a lot, and I was able to develop my own voice.
The first tour I went on with ICP was quite exciting for me, of course, because it was the group that I wanted to play with the most. Anyway, we're on stage and this was in Le Mans, France, festival there, and I'm standing next to Misha, so I generally make sure that he's got his set list going and he's got that he knows what's going on. So we were going to play a piece of his called Waar Bleef Je? So I get my music ready and set it up, and then I goes, hey Misha, waar bleef je? And he says, Art Blakey? And that happens a lot with him, where he hears a word and makes something else completely for that. So it's the standing joke. So when we play Waar bleef je, we say Art Blakey, and then he'll say Waar bleef je? So it keeps going.